So this next section is really important because in the midst of all the trucker convoy stuff and you know the ridiculousness of the community college stuff and all the other crap that's been going on with the pandemic, quote unquote pandemic, uh, the United States, of course, jumped in, right, and quietly just pushed out this new terror threat that issues that those opposing the current narrative, I mean, they don't say that, but they say this misinformation are terror threats. So now, again, we saw this with the January 6th, right? When they equated the white nationalist or the Trump supporter, whatever you want to call them, with terrorists. And we knew that was a problem because then that was going to extend to everybody else, including the leftists that were cheering for the murder of Ashley Babbitt, including those people. They're going to come after you too. And of course, what happened? Of course, it's just gotten increasingly worse. And so now this is what happened. And the Department of Homeland Security issued a bulletin on February 7th of this year at 2 p.m. Eastern. And it's a PDF, and you guys can actually go look at the PDF. And it's a summary of terrorism threat to the U.S. homeland. The United States remains in a heightened threat environment fueled by several factors, including an online environment filled with false or misleading narratives and conspiracy theories and other forms of dis, and malinformation, MDM, introduced and or amplified by foreign and domestic threat actors. These threat actors seek to exacerbate societal friction, to sow discord, and undermine public trust in government institutions, to encourage unrest, which could potentially inspire acts of violence, mass casualty attacks, and other acts of targeted violence conducted by lone offenders and small groups acting in furtherance of ideological beliefs and or personal grievances, pose an ongoing threat to the nation. While the conditions underlying the heightened threat landscape have not significantly changed over the last year, the convergence of volatility, unpredictability, and complexity of the threat environment. One, the proliferation of false or misleading narratives would sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. Two, continued calls for violence directed at the U.S. critical infrastructure, soft targets, and mass gatherings, faith-based institutions such as churches, synagogues, and mosques, institutions of higher education, racial and religious minorities, government facilities and personnel, including law enforcement and the military, the media, and perceived ideological opponents. And three, calls by foreign terrorist organizations for the attacks on the United States based on recent events. Gee, I wonder who they could possibly be talking about, fam. Who could they possibly be talking about in that?
Belarus.
So obviously they're talking about people opposing the COVID narrative. This is interesting. This is coming out as the trucker convoy situation has amplified and received so much support from the United States, and they're going to do a march in probably late March. Now it's not going to be early March. It's going to be
but it's a bunch of right wingers and white nationalists, and you know what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with working class, the people who truck our food all around. I know a dude who is in come on, the global South talking about what's going on in Canada, and I'm going to trust him.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I know. But and it's funny though, in this document, they're trying to make it illegal to ever push back against the government's, narrative. It's fucking scary. But obviously in the second part of it, fam, they're making sure they use all these things to bring the emotions into people. Look who they're going after, minorities, what I'm saying? And all that. So it's really a fucking mental, psychological op right now. They're playing and pitting people against each other. And unfortunately, I think it's working.
Oh, it is working for a sector of the liberal and the left. What calls itself, what is the left of the United States, right? That's what it is.
The American left? Yeah.
Right. But it's not working. And I think it's backfiring with
a lot of
people. Because this is why they're doing this, because they are seeing this uptick, this uprise of people fighting back against these narratives and the counter narratives that independent media is pushing, and that a lot of us who are vocally opposed to what's happening have been pushing, is obviously reaching some sort of point, because they wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't. And also, by the way, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, but if the truckers and all these people are such right-wing white nationalists and Nazis, all of them, right? White supremacists, as Pat the Burner said. If that's what they are, why is the State Department, the surveillance state, including the agencies, the Joe Biden administration, Trudeau's neoliberal administration, black-facing neoliberal administration of Trudeau, and all of these entities, mainstream media, corporations, why are they also agreeing with these so-called communists and anarchists and radicals? Like, have you come up to question, why does your logic fall on the side of those in power? Just think for a minute there, geniuses. So additional details, they're saying the primary terrorism-related threat to the United States continues to stem from lone offenders. So this is where they're like, oh, it's, the Trump supporter and the Nazi, because they see how well that works. Or small cells of individuals who are motivated by a range of foreign and domestic grievances, often cultivated through the consumption of certain online content. So they're directly coming at us, like, without naming us in particular. They're talking about independent media that is moving this pushing back on this narrative, like the Joe Rogans, like the Jimmy Dores, like us, like all of us on Rockfin, all of our fans have been talking about the Great Reset, and Julian Assange, all of these people, right? Like, certain online content. They're also talking about right-wing online content, which is what they're going to use to get the progressives to be like, yeah, that's misinformation. The convergence of violent extremist ideologies, false or misleading narratives, and conspiracy theories have and will continue to contribute to a heightened threat of violence in the United States.
Conspiracy theories.
Opposing the narrative and exposing the holes in what's been happening is now a threat of violence. If people are like, why is nobody freaked out about this, right? And so I'm just going to go over some of this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but some of the things they talk about is the proliferation of false or misleading narratives, which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions, right? The misleading narratives, election fraud. This is an important one to read. Regarding unsubstantiated widespread election fraud and COVID-19 grievances associated with these themes inspired violent extremist attacks during 2021. There we go. So now that they have, January 6th, 2021 now, and then they did the whole domestic violent extremists, now they're going to say, well, now that inspired people to push back and have these new attacks that undermine public trust in the government. You know what undermines public trust in the government? The fact that the government has failed the American people and continues to fail the American people every fucking day. That's what undermines public trust. The fact that the CDC and all these institutions of power literally could not get it right. And I'm not going to say too much because we're still on YouTube, but they didn't get it right. Okay. And that's the reality. And of course, they have to push their fucking imperialism here with malign foreign powers have and continue to amplify these false misleading narratives to damage the United States. Who are they talking about? They're talking about Russia. They're talking about RT. They're talking about Press TV and the people, and like the people they promote, which is like us, because the fucking CNN doesn't talk to us. And so, Pasta, I don't know.
They've been wrong on every single level, right? Too, when it comes to like the mainstream media, and they don't never have to, take anything back, take anything down. There's no punishment. They can use and steal our stuff, independent media, their footage and whatnot. But what they're doing here right now, in a sense, is, and it's scary because, like, I would be more concerned with them starting to kick down some doors, because I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I think you're going to see them go after certain individuals, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? You can see them with like the knocking on the doors of the Magnuses and all these other people right there, that it's going to get worse. They're trying to eliminate all the things that were supposed to make this country the best country on the planet. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, right? Remember, it was like freedom of speech. You can say what you want. That's what America's built upon. Well, now they're saying any, dissenting narrative, they're going to take you down. And now they're giving you a pipeline right now to even arrest you and just eliminate you. And they're going to try to do that. I mean, what they've done is criminal. The way they've demonetized, not just us, but a lot of other people like us they've kneecapped them and said, okay, we're going to make it almost impossible for you to do what you want to do. And that's just truth telling and telling different sides of the story, things that push back against, the prevailing narratives, especially the ones that are out there. And then it's, they also label it the violent extremists. Like you said, they're using the day, January 6th, as an excuse. And I talked to some people the other day and they're like, oh, so you don't think it was an insurrection? I'm like, I know it wasn't an insurrection. I was there, sir.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I think I saw you with a Trump shirt on the other day. I'm like, no, you never saw me. Once again, they got digressed back into the fucking team sports. Yeah, at my mom's place. Once again, as we were talking about the elections, and I was explaining to them all the elections, and I said, well, listen, traditionally, I set off something with like mail-in ballots are traditionally used by more conservative people, older people, right? And he's like, traditionally, it changed. It changed because who told you, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, who told you it changed? So, I mean, everything that's listed here, that, this is very, very, very scary. Talking about conspiracy theories, what they deem to be in a conspiracy theory. So Great Reset stuff or Fourth Industrial Revolution stuff or election stuff will always now be considered a conspiracy theory. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they're setting up the parameters to completely shut us down. This is acceleration of fascism, full-fledged. And like I said, I'm very nervous, fam, when I see stuff like this. They're giving themselves excuses to start kicking down doors. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to take an effort from all of us, and we're going to have to fight back. And I can't wait till we get to that section because people are like, well, why were you so harsh there? Because I am not playing this whole divisive fucking rhetoric where our neighbor is our enemy. That's what they want. Just go read 1984. You can watch the fucking movie. At the end of the day, if we're pitted against each other, they win. And they're going to do everything to do that right now. We have been living in a time of acceleration, guys, over the last since 2015, 2016 to now. It has gotten into scary mode, scary time, and it's going to take a village.
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah.
And just to wrap this section up, I mean, again, they're talking about foreign organizations, domestic actors threatening with false information that could lead to acts of violence. So if you're going to protest against mandates, right? Interesting, this comes out after the defeat the mandates, then that could potentially lead to violence, violent extremists. So this is the freaking Trumpers that they're trying to go after. That they're going to go after the religious faith-based organizations. Here are the historically Black colleges. So they're trying to say that all the these white nationalists, that there's so many of them here in the United States, that they're going to go after all these people of color and incite violence, and also attacks to the U.S. infrastructure. So hackers, right? This is where they're going to, there's going to be hackers, and there's going to be these people trying to get the infrastructure, and then they kind of mention Afghanistan, evacuation of Afghanistan, and then
hey, fam.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk really quick about the hackers thing too, as well.
Yeah.
While we're on that, so and I don't mean to just cut you off, but the hacker thing is very important because hackers are like individuals. They're making movies now, like I said, where all the different CIA and intelligence programs link up. Literally, U.S., England, Chinese, Venezuela, Colombia, all of them. They link up. Not Venezuela, but Colombia was one of them. I'm sorry. There's a movie coming out where they go after hackers. That's a way of singling out individuals where they're going to say, let the CIA be your superhero, let the FBI and the military industrial complex, as we will go after hackers who are just individuals. They're finding a way to make it all about just the individuals. It's our neighbors that's the enemy. That's what they're doing there. That's why the hackers part, they're kind of like insinuating Julian Assange, right? The hacker. That's what they're doing.
Well, they're trying to stop anybody that, like, any sort of whistleblower, anybody that could be accused as a hacker. And yeah, I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're going to promote that propaganda. And then they continue talking about foreign terrorists with their online presence. So like, Russians or Iranians and all these people influencing people.
Venezuelans.
Yeah, like anybody from the global south, right? And so how are they responding? So the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are going to share actions and information and intelligence with the audience as much as possible, blah, blah, blah. They're going to conduct briefings and blah, blah, blah. And they established a new dedicated domestic terrorism branch. How exciting to produce the sound, timely intelligence needed counter-related threats. And the department expanded its evaluation of online activity as part of its efforts to assess and prevent acts of violence. So they're like infiltrating the internet. Who knows if the person you're talking to is a Fed or not? That's why when I say that, I'm not lying. And they have $180 million in funding to support target hardening and other physical security enhancements to nonprofit organizations at risk of terrorist attacks. They're working with the public and private sector, which you'll never find out who the private sector is, and foreign entities to identify and evaluate dis, and malinformation, of course, including false and misleading narratives on social media and other online platforms. At some point they did mention, we might have not read it, but they did mention COVID. So this is directly, of course, related to that. So guys, just be on the lookout. This is going to get worse before it gets better. This is just, they're going to keep increasing these, the surveillance on people under the guise of course, domestic terrorism. And the worst part is a large contingent of the US left is eating it right up these little fascists. So that's where we're at.
What did we said this about a year and a half ago? They were little fascists with training wheels, right? Little authoritarians with training wheels, and now they're coming to full fruition. To see some of these people still with their lips out there and they're just what they're blah 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 about. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get into it today. Some really dirty, scary shit, and it's I'm gonna be here to push back. You notice the way, fam? They also mentioned other platforms. They're gonna also seek out other platforms like this. Like, you know what I'm saying? They were able to take Parler down. Who else can they take down next? Right. So I think that's why, like, a lot of people out there, they're trying to do open source stuff, find their own ways, try to get away from any grip of the government they can whatsoever, because they're coming for it, and they're going to make if they're not going to go down quietly, fam, and it is going to get worse before it gets better. We got to be prepared for it. If we can just hold on for one more day, like Wilson Phillips said, things will go our way. You like that, fam? That's an 80s kid right there for you.
Damn, I know. Oh my God. Never mind. Let's just
come on out there. Who likes Wilson Phillips?